We are committed to creating a safe and supportive space for our guests and listeners, and to provide information and tools that will help our listeners understand, manage, and overcome trauma. We understand that the healing journey can bring up challenging emotions. Therefore, we want to warn our audience that certain episodes may contain discussions or stories that could be triggering for some individuals. The content of the podcast is for educational and informative purposes only, and we encourage you to practice self-care and discretion while listening, and to reach out to a trusted support system or professional if you feel overwhelmed and need help on your healing journey. So hello and welcome back to Healing and Growing Hand in Hand podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Tickle, and our guest today is Lauren Schmidt. And I'll tell you a little bit about her and then I'll let her share more about herself. But she is the founder of Rise Therapy, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you are an RTT therapist and mindset coach, and I know you'll talk more about that. Yes. And I love what you do. And what she does is she helps entrepreneurs who are struggling with childhood trauma redefine their past so they can be present and achieve their future. I love that. That's for everybody. But entrepreneurs, that's a whole nother animal, right?
It is. Yeah, it's a whole different level, I think. Yeah.
So tell us about you. Tell us about Rise Therapy and what RTT therapist is.
Yes. So just very briefly, I for over 16 years, I was a wedding and event planner, ran my own event, planning company. And so managed a team of people, managed large scale events. So client service and being on point all the time was very integral and important to my business. Mm-hmm. And I also was a floral designer as well. So I had a floral company that kind of paired well with the event company, which is its own beast and its own thing. I wouldn't recommend it for small companies to bring the two together. But it was through the purchase of the floral business that I realized what I had been pushing down and trying to avoid and ignore for so long, that I had a lot of sabotaging behaviors. I had a lot of internal struggles and issues due to past trauma that I was not at all aware of. I went through my tumultuous childhood thinking that a lot of that stuff was normal.
Mm-hmm. I think that's so common.
Yes, yes. And so once I had the two businesses going, I realized, you feel very in over your head, not able to prioritize, sabotaging opportunities. I mean, you name it, I was probably doing it. And I thought to myself, I had a very supportive husband, but he could only support in what he could see and what I could show him and communicate, right? So that was the outward business stuff. And one night I realized I'm the only one who can help me, and I don't even know what's going on with me. I don't even know. And so I was in a fear cycle, sabotaging behavior cycle, and that's when I decided that I was going to take my mental health, my emotional well-being into my own hands. And so for several months, I tried to do it on my own. And in that process, with very minimal results, I discovered RTT, or Rapid Transformational Therapy. And I said, you know what? This looks really cool. I have no idea how this can work, but we're going to try it, right? And so I did. And within a couple of months, like 1 to 2 months, really, I started feeling peace and hopeful. And I started letting go of the past pain and the struggle that I wasn't even consciously aware of. And I thought to myself, if I can feel this way, if I can actually feel freedom and peace and hope again, so can anyone. Like, this is meant for everybody in the world. Yes. Like, we are not meant to struggle. We are not meant to live in fear and to, feel lonely and like we don't belong. And so that in a session is when I actually rediscovered that I had always wanted to be a therapist. And so when that happened, I thought long and hard about it and shared that with my husband. And he was like, okay, great. But how? I was like, I don't know, but we'll figure it out, because I was still running 2 businesses.
Oh, goodness.
And so, yes. And then COVID hit.
Oh.
Okay. And so you go from 100%, operations down to 0 in less than 24-hour period.
Yeah. That's traumatic there.
Yeah. And so I thought, that's okay. I started my training and, kind of keeping the business afloat as best we could, the businesses, because I had a team of people that still relied on me for some sort of income.
Yeah.
And so I managed it by the grace of God and continued with my training and education. And here we are today. So helping a lot of entrepreneurs. I know where you're coming from. I get it. I get the struggles, and so RTT, what it is it's a hybrid modality that combines, of course, cognitive behavioral therapy and psychotherapy, so the talk therapies, but it also incorporates neurolinguistic programming, methods of neuroscience, as well as all within hypnotherapy.
Okay.
So what we're doing is we're accessing the subconscious mind, which holds all of our memories, knows all of our truths, all of our beliefs, and how those beliefs have attached emotion, so that what people can do is identify the core root causes of their trauma and their pain, what's holding them back, right? Those sabotaging behaviors. And once they see it and they understand, then we can let go of it. That's where we get to redefine the past.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. So it's a type of hypnotherapy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it kind of like EMDR where you do an eye movement, or is it just hypnotherapy?
Mm-hmm. So it's just very, it's calming the body. So it's actually going into hypnosis. So I can teach you here. It's super easy. Anybody can do it. But all we're doing, and there's so many different ways to go into hypnosis. You could literally just lay there and listen to me talk, and you'll go into alpha brainwave. That's all you're doing, is you're going into alpha and then theta brainwave. Because what you and I are in right now is beta brainwave. So we're in conscious mind.
Right. Mm-hmm. We're interacting.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Exactly. But we operate most of our day out of our subconscious mind, and people don't even realize it,
Right. And the memories, the childhood trauma is stored there. So it's stored in the subconscious, and it's also stored in our body.
Exactly. Yes. Because all that cortisol and that adrenaline, that fight or flight, it stays suppressed in the body until it's dealt with. So whenever we have big emotional experiences, right? And we don't actively deal with them in a healthy way. It just stores inside the body, and that's where a lot of people get a lot of physical ailments popping up too.
Right, especially stomach stuff.
Stomach, chronic illnesses, migraines, skin issues.
I'm reading a couple of books, but one they're talking about. Which is really interesting, is a lot of people who have suffered from childhood trauma or abuse struggle with autoimmune diseases like MS, arthritis, any of
fibromyalgia.
That's another one where they're like, we have no idea where this came from. We have no idea what causes it. Yep. And what's so cool is this stuff can be healed.
It can.
We're so, I've got this autoimmune disease now and now I'm stuck with it. No, you're able to heal it. And when I learned about this, I was listening to the book. I almost came out of my chair when I was listening to this, because my husband has rheumatoid arthritis, but it's been in remission for over 20 years. And we couldn't figure out why. Now he obviously has, you can see, in his hands and in his joints, you can see the damage that had happened when he had it, but he hasn't had a flare up in over 20 years.
That's amazing.
And he works out and he's very strong. And the thing they told him, don't work out, don't do this. He didn't listen to him. It got so bad at one point, they were actually talking about cutting his fingers off. because he didn't have the blood flow anymore.
Oh my goodness.
So it was really serious. And they were talking about, well, they wanted him to do chemotherapy. And he said, no, I don't understand why I need to do chemotherapy for my hands, when I'm putting this poison in my system.
Poison.
But yeah, total poison. And so he refused it. And it wasn't long after that when it started to go into remission, and he's done well since then. So it's interesting and encouraging, understanding where these diseases are coming from, and more importantly, that they can even be turned around.
Absolutely. The thing about it is, and I think people are beginning to realize, is that our body and our mind is designed to heal. We were created to be able to heal ourselves. We just have to give our mind and our mind the right dialogue,
Right.
and our body the right emotional capacity. So the right chemicals, right? The dopamines, the serotonin, the oxytocin, like melatonin, that needs to be present in the body to create more homeostasis.
Right.
So that the body can be relaxed. The cells, I mean, we're made of over 50 trillion cells. And if you think about it, every cell has its own kind of brain in a way. They have their own messaging, right? And what they're supposed to be doing. And so when your body is in such a high stress state, and you've got so much adrenaline and cortisol coursing through it, eventually some of those cells are going to get really disoriented. I don't know what to do. And so then other cells are going to be activated to try to overcompensate. And there you go,
Right.
with the autoimmune, you got the white blood cells trying to overcompensate. And so if people will realize this and say, you know what, I can be in charge of my own healing, and really take the lead on this if I will just take the time and become aware of what my traumas, what my pain, my struggles have been, so that I can learn from them, grow from them, let them go. The whole, whenever I know a lot of people, when they say, well, I've been in therapy, because when people come to me, they've done a lot usually of different types of therapies. And they're like, I don't know what else to do. I mean, this is ridiculous. I've gone to therapy for years and it helps for a little bit. And then I'm just regressing, again, right back into my old patterns. And so if people can, because our conscious mind can accept or reject information. So if you're just doing conscious type therapy,
right,
you're only able to get so far with it. Okay. And I'm not saying that it doesn't work, because there are many times that it does work, but you're only able to usually get so far, especially when there's deep trauma going on, right?
Complex trauma.
Yes, complex trauma. So when you're able to access that subconscious mind and do the healing work in that mind, in that area of the brain, it's much faster, and you're accessing the truth right there. You're getting to the truth, and you're able to rewire new neural pathways in your brain, so that you can, the trauma happened. We'll never forget, right? So your brain's not going to forget it, but you become indifferent to it.
True. Yes.
Yeah.
It no longer has an effect on you.
That's right. The emotional state has changed to, at minimum, become indifferent. And so you've changed. What we do is we change the meanings that we've attached to it. And there's so many different ways we can do that, depending on the person, what they've gone to, and the meanings they've attached initially, right? And so, and then that's when the physical ailments start to go away.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I think about when I was in survival mode, because I was in that place for a long time, and it was just always feeling anxious. It didn't take much to completely set me off, right? And even things like, and I've talked about this before, my husband at the time would call me on my cell phone, and it would be sitting next to me, and I'd pick it up and I'd say hello, and he'd go, "Gosh, did you run to the phone?" And I'm like, "No, I was just sitting here." He did that several times, and I never, not until now, did I figure out what that was. But it was just, I was constantly tight,
Yeah.
and I wasn't breathing right, and so I was constantly tight. And then one of the things that I realized too is which is interesting, is being always tight. I couldn't even relax. I couldn't even relax my hands when I would get my hands massaged, or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and what made me, and I'm like, but I don't know what that is like. I don't know what it feels like to really relax, because people are like, just relax. Come on. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know what that's like. You
Uh-huh.
know how I learned? This is going to sound crazy, but my dog, we have two dogs, and my dog will get up on the couch with me, and he likes to lay across my legs, and he goes like dead weight, like to where it's almost painful. And I'm like,
Oh,
oh, that's what it's like to relax,
yeah.
is to get to that. And so I've been paying more attention to this. This sounds really crazy, but I'm teaching my mind and my body how to relax, because I would lay in bed and I would realize I was real tense. I'm like, okay, drop the shoulders, breathe. But for so long, that is how I lived, and my body, I've got damage to it as a result of it. But it's things like that you don't even know how to do, right?
Right.
Like, I didn't know
Yes.
how to relax. I had to have my dog teach me what it
Yes.
means to just let go.
Yes. I will never forget the time that I had an RTT session and I felt the release in my chest.
Ooh.
Like it just, like my chest just, I didn't even know for 40 years, let's call it, maybe it was 30 of my life, that my chest was always so like
Yes.
tight.
Yes.
And I felt this release and I was like, I can breathe. Oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
a full deep breath, and had done meditations before and
Yeah.
all kinds of different techniques before. But the feeling of that release, I was like, oh my God, this is what peace is like,
Yeah.
you know? And so many of my clients who come to me, there's this tension that they're holding, whether it be
Yeah.
in I've had some say like the top of their stomach, like in the solar plexus area,
Yeah.
is so tight, it's always clenched, they can't release it, or their chest,
Chest.
neck
Yeah.
and shoulders is a
Yeah.
huge area, or like right in here in the lower
Yep.
cranial,
Yep.
where they say it's just like in so much pain, they live with it. It's just this constant
Yeah. It just becomes
tense
your normal.
pain. And usually these pains right in here, after we've worked together for like a month, gone.
I think I
And
want
they
to try a session, seriously, especially because I'm getting better about relaxing, but I'm still not there. Like I'm not dead weight like my dog. Like, it's
yeah,
literally painful when he lays on me,
yeah,
because he just like, and
yeah,
I'm,
yeah,
and I'm like, God, what is that like?
yeah.
What is that like? Like, I'm better. I still have to pay attention to my breathing, because
Mm-hmm,
I will naturally go into that shallow breathing.
mm-hmm,
But anyway, it's so interesting.
yeah,
And for me, it's just been such a part of my life. But there were several times that my ex-husband would say to me, "Did you just run to the phone?" And I could
yeah.
not figure out what he was talking about. So
He was,
bizarre.
yeah, he was hearing that stress, right? That
Yeah.
level of like stress in you, but he didn't really know where it was coming from, and neither did you, right? And
No.
that's the thing, is we can't, that's the thing, is we can't heal what we're not aware of. We
So
have to,
true.
that's the first step. For anybody who's like, something's wrong,
Yeah.
and that goes back to with entrepreneurs, okay, business owners. Um, for me, I didn't know, I was procrastinating like crazy. Always a people pleaser,
Yep.
right? And a perfectionist, which I still have a little bit of that tendency in there, but I don't mind it most of the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's okay to a degree. But that procrastination
Mm-hmm.
and the people pleasing, and then feeling so frozen, like I
Mm.
can't do anything. I can't move forward because over analyzing. This has to be right. And what if this person says this and that? And oh, I don't know. I don't think I feel like doing this today. I'm just going to not do it. And then you let people down, and then you're guilty in this whole cycle.
Oh,
And
I've
you
been down that road.
and you sit there, oh, and the imposter syndrome, like, do I
Yes.
deserve to have this business? Do I deserve to have this client who's paying me thousands of dollars to plan her wedding and over and over? And I was like, oh my God, stop.
Yeah.
Stop
Yeah.
it.
I remember doing that. Stop. I remember that. Stop.
Just stop. What are you doing? And it's like, okay, then you got to, okay, so now you go, all right, there's a problem. And I keep doing it. It's not a one-time
Right.
situational, like every once in a blue moon. This is constant,
Yeah.
pretty
You're
constant.
sitting there watching this cycle, right? And you're going,
Yeah.
how do I get off this merry-go-round?
How do I do it? And you're like, all right, there's obviously something more going on that I can't consciously figure out for myself. And I'm feeling rejected a lot. I'm feeling like I don't belong a lot, which that's a higher self-awareness. That's a little bit later on down the road. But then it's like, you've got to take action, because if you don't, and you don't help yourself, nobody else can help you.
No.
And that was one of the things that I would do, is I would look to other people.
Mm-hmm.
I need you to validate me. I need you to help me. Right. And they can't do that. They can do it for a little bit. They can give you little nuggets of validation and help and things like that. But their priority is themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And that's the thing. Entrepreneurship too is also very lonely, right? So it's natural that you're going to go to that place. I mean, I am one, right? And I catch myself and you have a lot of alone time, and you can get in your head, right?
Yes, absolutely. It can be very, and I've done that too, where I'm like, I'm all alone. I'm doing this business by myself. Why don't I have a partner? And you see the partners together, and they're accomplishing so much more faster. And it's like, oh my gosh, stop it. If you really want a partner, go find one. First of all, you're not alone.
No,
you're not.
No. I used to really struggle with, and this is the first time that I'm not doing it, and I'm purposely not doing it, where I would get into some kind of partnership, but I would make sure that I partnered with someone who how do I say this? Like, I would let them take the lead. And I would absolutely take a back seat. And I was fine being the person behind the scenes doing stuff. And I'm thinking about like the workshop that I used to do, and I'm actually resurrecting that again. But I would put myself under people that I allowed them to just run the show. And I would carry this thing in me of, well, I want to be equal to them. I want to do the same thing that they're doing, but they're doing it so much better than me. And I would never allow myself to be even on an equal. Does that make sense?
Yes,
absolutely. So I would always partner myself up with someone who I guess I would allow them to dominate me.
Yes.
And as I've been doing this podcast, when I first started thinking about it, I thought, oh, I need to get a partner. And I just felt strongly, no. So I'm doing this on my own, and I'm messing it up sometimes. I'm doing a great job sometimes. But there was at one point where I was going to bring someone in, and I caught myself. And I was actually aligning myself with someone and I felt myself going right to that old place of, well, they'll know better than I will, and I'll just learn from them. And then what happens to my voice?
Yeah. You become quieter, meek.
So why don't you go over some of the RTT therapy, and like you said, you could maybe show the audience how we can do this on our own.
Absolutely. So I can teach you how to go into put yourself into a state of hypnosis, which all you're doing is you're telling your beta brain frequency to calm down, like it's going to take a break. And then you're activating your alpha brainwave frequency, and you're allowing it to come forward. and to show you truth, right? To show you, to either, maybe you just want to relax and you just want to allow. This is an incredible place to just allow. It's actually the perfect place. When you are allowing new information, new suggestions, when you want to be receptive to new information, to build new neural pathways in the brain, right? The alpha state is the perfect state to be in. And what happens sometimes with people is they go, well, I don't remember what you said. I don't remember what was said to me. So I make recordings. So after each RTT session, my clients get a 15, 20-minute bespoke recording, based on what we've worked on to transform, to help to further embed and solidify their new life, the life without the problem, right? How they want to be, how they want to show up, how they're feeling, what's changing in their body, what's being activated and released from their body. So we go through all of that. And I'm using a lot of their words mixed with my own and incredible energy. And they get to take this with them. So every day they're going into a state of alpha.
Okay.
Intentionally, state of alpha, so that they can receive and allow this information to start building those new neural pathways. So it's an incredible, so it's okay if you don't remember what's being said. You're not trying to hold on to anything. You're only allowing.
Okay.
And even when you go into theta, when you actually go to sleep, the mind is still listening. So it's okay. It can still hear everything. So it's wonderful to have meditations, wonderful positive recordings going on even while you're sleeping, because your mind is picking that up. So, and actually alpha is when we let beta take a break, we are releasing our emotional state.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yes. And the more logical state actually is activated in alpha. Yes. Okay. It's not going to argue. There's no, oh yeah, but none of that. It's just like, yes, this is
acceptance.
Yes, it is acceptance. Yeah. Okay. So if you're ready, do you want me to just show you how to go into hypnosis, or I can take you to a happy scene?
You can take me to a happy scene.
I'm going to do a happy scene? Okay,
yeah.
Perfect. All right. So how long do we have? Just want to make sure. Time.
Let's say, you mean to do this? 5 minutes, is that enough, or?
Probably 15. We could do another time too if you want to.
Okay.
If it's too long, we could just do that.
Yeah.
As a snippet.
Yeah.
But just really quickly, so we'll schedule another time to go to a happy scene, because we want to relax the mind and relax the body, so that
that takes time.
It takes a little bit of time for that. And then I want to walk you through recalling a scene in your life that you experienced, that was so happy.
I seriously want to do this.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll do this another time for sure.
Yes. So just to go in, this is just one way to go into a state of hypnosis. Okay. So whether you're laying down or you're in a seated position, you just want to make sure that your head and neck are straight. So you're not doing this or anything like that, because it causes a kink and it can just, it's going to disrupt the brainwave frequency, because it's taking attention away. And so all you're going to do is you're going to look up as high as you can into your own eyebrows or to your hairline. So you're going to feel a strain around in your eyeballs, which is perfectly normal. You're going to blink, and you're going to take 3 big cleansing deep breaths in and out. And on the third one, you're going to keep your eyes up, even though your eyes might want to so badly close. And you're going to keep your eyes up, and you're going to shut your eyelids down all the way down. And once those eyelids come down, then you can just forget all about your eyes and let them go wherever they want to go. And so there you go. So keeping them up. Are you breathing in and out? There you go. Breathing in. And out. Just allow a drifting, floating feeling. to develop in and around your body as your mind relaxes, feeling so safe, so rested, as your body softens and calms, and allowing this sensation to stay within you. You can feel free to just open up your eyes whenever you feel ready.
I am relaxed.
That's it. That's it.
I had to work at it though. I had
Yeah.
to like really let it go.
Yeah. Well, the first time too, when it's
Yeah.
different, right? Whenever we're experiencing something that's unknown, our
Yeah.
mind might have a little bit of like, hold on, what are you doing?
Yeah. What are you doing here? Yeah.
Yeah, what are you doing? And so that's why it's important to say it's okay.
Right.
Let go. You can be calm. You're safe. A lot of times I'll tell. So I do a lot of prep work with my clients first too, because they might feel scared or
Yeah.
unsure about like, what are
Yeah.
you doing when we go into hypnosis? So whenever they book, before we even start meeting, I send them a priming recording. So they learn how to go into hypnosis on their own. It's a 15-minute relaxation, just pure body, full body relaxation. So they do that every day leading up to our first session, so that by the time we meet, that's old hat. They're like, got
They're not
it.
scared. Yeah.
No, they're like, I'm ready to go there with you. I'm ready to do this. Cause now at least that part of the process is now familiar to them. So they understand it.
Yeah.
And go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
I was going to say, and they've experienced full body relaxation
Yeah.
that they might not have had for a very long time.
That's what I want to learn, is really truly getting to that honest, full body relaxation where I'm like dead weight completely.
Yes, it's dead
and
weight.
not, because I'll tell you, I know what I would be in fear of is getting hypnotized and losing control. Like, there's this whole thing. It's just like I used to have this belief system around, I can't start crying because I might not stop. So then I wouldn't cry. Well, that's not the right answer. And that has never happened where I've cried so much I haven't stopped. Right.
Right.
But it's that whole, it's feeling safe and feeling like, oh, I might do something or say something or do something that would be, out of my control.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you brought that up, Lisa, because what is true about hypnosis is that you are always in control.
Okay.
You can go in and out of hypnosis anytime. You can say, Lauren, hey, I've got to go to the bathroom. That's it. Fine. That's totally fine. You can be crying and grab a tissue. You can get and grab a drink. When you're in hypnosis, you and I are talking just like we are now.
Do I remember it?
Yeah, absolutely. You remember it. So, and the reason is that our mind works in two ways, by pictures and words. So you'll remember the pictures, you'll remember your scenes, you'll remember how you used to feel versus how you feel now about it. I mean, it's incredible. You'll remember all of it. And what is amazing is that even after the session, days after the session, your mind is still processing. Yeah. And going, oh, and then this happened. Oh, I see now. And now you're linking and you're going, I understand. Okay. This is why I've always felt rejected in my life, or this is why I sabotage every opportunity that comes my way because of the fear of failure or fear of success that I have. And, sky's the limit with it. But the thing is that the beautiful thing about doing this kind of therapy and coaching, which we didn't even get into that, but that's okay, another time, is that we're doing very focused, deep work.
Mm-hmm.
So you know how sometimes when you're in conscious mind and you're talking to somebody, how you can go on like 5 different
Yeah.
tangents?
Yeah.
No, you're not doing that. So with my guidance and your subconscious mind, we are focusing on what's coming up, what needs to be addressed. And when your mind shows you something else, we know, okay, how is this tied together? And we can work through it like 2 little detectives together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
So
something so empowering with that when you're figuring stuff out, when, like you said, when you're thinking about it a couple days later and you go, oh, that's why I did that. It is so empowering.
mhm,
And I have found that I have been able to fill in my timeline in my life, that of the missing pieces and the missing things, and answering questions and realizing truly in my heart that the abuse wasn't my fault, and it wasn't because I was created to be abused, like,
yeah,
because that's the belief system I had. I wasn't loved,
mhm,
so therefore I'm abused. And it really kind of separated the event from me, from my
yeah,
identity.
yeah, absolutely. And the thing is that abuse happens always. Abuse happens to us,
Right.
not with us. We are
Right.
not an active participant. Like
No
we are
matter
not
what.
giving permission. Yeah.
Mm-mm. No
Even
matter
if you
what.
think you are or you think you have to, you are not.
No.
So, and that's the thing. And it is not your identity,
No.
and it doesn't have to be your reality, you know, but you are the one that has to do something different
Right. Right. You
in
can't
order
change
to,
the past, but you can
right.
change the future. You can
That's
change the
right.
present, and you can change
That's
the
right.
future
Absolutely.
and create a better
Absolutely.
life.
Yes. And we start with safety,
Hmm.
setting boundaries. And I'll tell you this, like very candidly, and I know that sometimes people go, oh, what's that? But we're truly reestablishing self-worth.
Yes.
That's what I'm helping people do, is
Hmm.
to reestablish their self-worth so they would never allow for or go into or attract
Right.
anybody or any situations that would ever bring them into trauma, abuse, or any major painful challenge, right? Like
Right. Right.
that they could avoid. So
It teaches you to be able to not just separate, like I was just saying, separating what happened to us from our identity, but it also helps us to manage it. So it's not
yes,
managing us or controlling us.
that's right.
Because I can think back to when I was in, survival mode, just how helpless I felt all the time and out of control. And, you want to talk about fear, right? The fear was so deep.
Yeah.
And so when you learn, as you're beginning to do your healing, and you're learning these modalities, you're learning these, tips that help you, and these tools that help you manage it, it's really empowering, and that helpless feeling goes away, and your confidence, your self-worth, all of that goes up.
Yes.
and
Yes.
and and I did this stuff without realizing that, but I'm sitting here today and I look back and where I was and where I am today,
Yes.
and that's not just for me, and that's not just for you, that's for
Right.
everybody, right?
Everybody. Everybody. And that's the thing is that this is a journey. Like
Yeah.
our healing journey it's truly a lifetime journey,
Mm-hmm.
and it's when we decide to go on the journey,
Mm-hmm.
it can be very tough. There are going
Yeah.
to be challenges. It doesn't, unfortunately, it doesn't just do this beautiful, upward linear, like, yay, I'm healed and
Yeah.
I'm going to be for the rest of my life. It's going to dip and it's going to turn, and it just depends on what you're dealing with. But I promise you, if you stick with the process, you will heal.
Mm-hmm.
You just cannot give up. You
Mm-hmm.
can't give up. Once you tell your mind, I'm in control now, I decide that we're healing, I decide that we're going to change, the mind has no choice but to follow suit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the truth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it might take a little longer for some than it does for others, depending. on the
Right.
resistance,
Right.
right? But it will happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've said this before. I might have said it. I don't know if I said it earlier in a podcast, but I'm able to talk about my childhood abuse, and it doesn't have an effect on me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Once in a while, and it probably when I'm tired, I'll think about something and it'll kind of bug me. Um, and that's really interesting because I can share my story so that people can connect, but it doesn't have that effect on me anymore. I'm able to
Yeah,
manage it rather than it managing me.
that's
And
right.
that alone is freeing, because I remember just being in talk therapy and telling the same stories over and having the same reactions and it not getting better. And then
Yeah.
walking out of therapy and being frustrated because I just told this story and I'm walking out with the same emotions and feelings that I had before. It's not better. It
Yeah.
wasn't until I started, and I think this is true. You need to go to trauma specialists. You need to go to
Yeah.
people who understand trauma, because
Yes.
it's very different than regular talk therapy.
Yes.
There are modalities that you need. You need to get this out of your body. You need to get it out of your subconscious. And
Yes.
there's
You need to
modalities,
re-regulate, yes, your
right?
sympathetic nervous system.
Re-regulate. Yeah, regulating your nervous system is huge,
Yes.
because and it goes going back to having diseases and stuff. I mean, think about it. For probably 40 years, I lived my life in survival mode, high stress. Anything could set me off, and it would set me off over the top.
Yeah.
Constantly being in fear. I mean, imagine what that did to my body.
Mm-hmm.
Your adrenal glands,
Yeah.
your mind.
It
And so
changes your structure of your brain.
it totally does. I was
It,
exhausted all the time,
yeah.
exhausted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What happens when you experience, so the amygdala of our brain is our fear signal. And when it's the one that tells our adrenals to secrete the cortisol and the adrenaline, right? So that's our fight or flight. So when it does that all the time, that fear signal is always activated. The amygdala increases in your brain so that it can always be on alert to
Oh,
detect,
right.
detect. And then your hippocampus in your brain, which is supposed to be your cortisol regulator, and like, okay, we don't need to do, and your memory store, hey, I'm going to put these memories in this file like this, cannot do its job.
Yeah.
And therefore it shrinks down. So you've got, now you're out of whack
Oh, way out of
because
whack.
because the toxic cortisol, right? And then when you have so much cortisol pumping through your body, your prefrontal cortex, which is your executive decision making, risk taking, logical, like think it through step by step, doesn't function well.
Right.
So that's also affected. And if you've had complex trauma from childhood, the prefrontal cortex of the brain may be underdeveloped.
Yes.
So, but here's the beautiful thing: we are designed to change and heal,
Yeah. Yes. And our
and we
brains
can
can heal.
actually change our brain functioning again.
Mm-hmm. Hallelujah.
Just takes some time. It just
It does.
takes some time and patience.
It
Yep.
does. And it's a journey. And when you realize that, and I actually put a post out about that very, what your healing journey is like.
Mm-hmm.
it is like this. And I
Mm-hmm.
and I want the listeners to hear that, because I used to think, I was in so much pain growing up that I don't want to be in pain anymore. I just want to hurry up and heal and just not be in pain anymore. Well, that's just not reasonable. Um, but what I do know is, as I've gone on my healing journey and things that have come up that have been really painful, I'm able to manage them better than I was before. They don't
Yeah.
set me back the way that they used to.
Yeah.
You know, I have tools in my little toolbox now that helps me work through this. So instead of it being weeks, maybe it's days or maybe even just hours that I'm dealing with this particular
Exactly.
thing. And
Exactly.
and
I
getting
love
it into the right perspective too,
that. Mm-hmm.
because I had such messed up filters on. I was seeing
Yes.
things very wrong. And so it helps you to
Exactly.
see things much clearer. And like I said, I'm able to separate that from me,
Yes.
so that it's no longer my identity. Because so
That's
much of
right.
us, I don't call myself, I call myself a survivor or a thriver. I don't call myself a victim anymore.
Good.
And when I was in survival mode, I was also had the victim mindset.
Yes.
So it was just a hot mess over there.
That's another thing, right? That has to be identified and let go of. How are you living in victimhood?
Yeah.
Right. And when you do that, you keep recreating these horrible realities for
Yeah.
yourself. You just keep
Yeah.
bringing them and you don't even know that you're doing it. And then you go back into being a victim. And that cycle continues until
Right.
you see it and you say, you know what, I'm taking responsibility for this part. I'm going to take responsibility because
Yeah.
I'm not doing this anymore.
And when you go to that place, your body is reacting like we were just talking about, and all the cortisol and everything, and gets out of balance.
Yeah.
That's, I know part of the reason why I put weight on was because of that. Part of it's because I was emotionally eating, you
Yeah.
know, and just,
Absolutely.
you're putting your body into such stress. And I keep talking about this because I'm now 61 and I've had numerous surgeries on my body because of the damage I've done to it, because I didn't take care of it all those years, because I was under a tremendous amount of stress. And I was vicious to my body. I mean, I would make myself do stuff and I didn't care how much it hurt. You get it done. It was just this,
Yeah.
it was just my abuser talking to me, basically, and make it, just
Exactly.
no grace, no mercy, no understanding, just do it, and so I was so hard on myself, and I am physically paying the price for it. And if I could help somebody, that are in their 20s and 30s or 40s,
Yes.
stop, so that you don't do the damage to your body and you don't end up, having surgeries all over, you know I just can't
I know.
emphasize that enough.
It's priceless. It's
Right.
it's absolutely priceless. And and the thing too that I also like to share is that when you do focus and you do heal yourself, you are also healing your lineage for your future
Ooh,
generations, and you're healing your past generations. I just these books. You
I
are
know, me
you are
too.
the DNA and the generational trauma that exists with most everybody. We all carry some in, right? And and that's what I was starting to tell you earlier, is this journey when you decide to embark on it, and you're the first one, you're the first generation to take action.
You're
It's
the
going
golden
to be
ring.
the hardest on you because you're doing it for the past generations and the future
Mm.
generations who either exist or don't exist yet. And the thing is what you are doing is so huge. And you be proud of yourself. Be so, even in the midst of like the storm, be so proud of yourself that you're doing this, because you are not just changing yourself, you're
Ugh.
changing your whole family line. And you're
Yep.
probably changing the world because of how you will show up in the world when
Correct.
you are healed, and how your future generations will show up in the world when they are healed.
Oh, so
You
glad
know?
you said that, because it is so true. That
Yep.
we're, I was told one time I'm the golden ring in the family. I'm the golden ring. And they said that, you're the one that's going to be breaking the generational
Yep.
traumas and
Break the
all of
cycle.
that. And
Hmm.
that's fine. And it's hard work, but you know what? That is what helps motivate me, is the ability to take better care of myself so that I can help others, so that I can change my
Hmm.
lineage, so that I can
Yes.
help, other people have that walk and not spend 20, 30, 40, 50 years suffering,
Oh, yeah.
right? That's
Yeah.
what
My
kills me, is that,
sister, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, that's what gets me, is just the people, I did it, suffered for 40, 50 years before you finally do something about it.
Yeah. Well, that's it, right? For me, it's like I knew in my 30s something wasn't right, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't until I hit 40 that I said, okay, enough is enough. Like I've actively been struggling for at least 10 years, like knowingly,
Yeah.
I'm knowingly struggling.
Yeah.
And now I got to do something, or the rest of my life is going to be like this, pain and suffering. And is that what adulthood is supposed to be? Is that what
Yeah.
my life is
Yay.
supposed to be? I don't think God brought me here for this.
No.
I don't. And so, um, yeah, my sister and I were talking about it a couple weeks ago, and she's like, it just sucks being the first one to break the trauma cycle, and to actually take action on becoming more aware, understanding, healing, thinking better thoughts, feeling better in your body.
Yeah.
And it's work. It is, there's some work to it, but my Lord, the days that you feel great, wow, that's just another stepping stone, another building block for you to feel great, even more, even more, even more. And you're just more empowered. Who doesn't want to be empowered
I know.
to
I
live their
know.
life the way that they want?
I know. I know. I can remember being stuck in the victim mindset and watching that cycle over and over and over and sitting there going, why am I doing this again? Like you could predict it
You can predict it.
and you're sitting there
Mhm.
watching it. And then, you finally, and I just remember just seeing like a wall in front of me, not knowing how I'm going to get through that wall, around that wall, over that wall. And finally one day I just thought, well, why don't I look the other way? And I did. And ever since then, I've been able to work around. It's just those little shifts sometimes
It
that you
is these
make.
little shifts.
It
And
takes you in.
sometimes you can physically feel the shift. I
Oh
can't tell
yeah.
you how many times I've physically felt the shift of letting go,
Yep.
surrendering, and
Yep.
going, okay, I just give this up. There is literally no point in
Right.
holding on to regret, holding on to blame, holding on to shame and guilt. That's a huge aspect and component of the work that we do, is that letting go of all of that, right?
Yeah.
There is no point. And when you feel it, you can feel it releasing from your body, like a
Yeah.
physical sensation. You get lighter. And all of a sudden you're like, it's done.
Mm-hmm.
It's done.
Mm-hmm.
We're
Mm-hmm.
good. I'm good.
I had someone ask me the other day, how do you deal with the guilt of the things that you've done in the past? Like when I was in survival mode. And I said, well, it's a few things. I said, I do realize I can't change that. And I do realize that putting energy into sitting there rethinking about the things that I did and the awful things that I did doesn't put me in a good place. And instead, I need to take that energy and I need to do things right going forward.
Yeah,
Learn from that, forgive
that's right.
myself. I have to forgive myself. And
Forgiveness.
when there were
Huge.
opportunities for me to make amends with others, I did. But for the most part, I have to forgive myself and understand I was in survival mode. It doesn't excuse my behavior, it doesn't negate the consequences that came out of it. But that's the reality is, I know now I'm not in survival mode and I never want to act like that. Right. And so I just have to give myself grace of knowing I was just flat out in survival mode and I was just trying to get through the day, let alone
Yeah,
life. Right.
absolutely.
And so I've learned to forgive myself for that. Sometimes a memory will pop up and I'm like, oh, and then I have to let
Uh-huh.
it go. Because so many of us survivors, we deal with that. We deal with, oh God, I behaved this way and I treated someone like that. And you know, I just try to focus on what I can do going forward to do things different for me and for others.
And that's the healthiest way to think, and action to take, because the more that you stay in that looping thought
Oof.
of the regret, right, and the guilt and the blame, whether it's blaming yourself or blaming somebody else, the more you stay in that thought, that more of those negative emotions are created. So the thoughts creates emotions, creates
Yep.
action or inaction, which then affects the events in our lives. And
Yep.
so you're just you're just compounding a cycle that you will not get out of until you decide to forgive yourself and forgive others too, when
Yeah.
as appropriate. And you know
With
we
time.
work on that and how to do
Yeah.
that in a very healthy way, because it's not about just going, oh, okay, well, I just, I forgive you, I just, it's fine what you did. No, it's not fine.
No.
It's not fine. And there's, but when you can, the forgiveness is huge, because it's like it gives you permission to move on with your life, to be free, and
Yes.
to be able to make better decisions
Yes.
moving forward.
Yes. You
you
don't
know
carry the bitterness, the
Mm-mm.
resentment.
Right.
And I've seen people who have carried bitterness and resentment in their life, and they're suffering, because
Suffering.
you're going to suffer more. You're definitely
Yes.
going to suffer more, for sure. Because, like you said, forgiving someone else is not diminishing or dismissing what they did at all. Has nothing to do with them at all. Has everything to do
Everything to do with you.
with me. And I
Mhm.
know in my life I have forgiven my abusers. I'm still working on my dad a little bit, and a little bit on my mom, but
Mhm.
definitely my brother. And I can honestly say I wish them the best. My parents are
Mhm.
gone. I don't have anything to do with my brother. I wish him the best. I love him. I do pray that he will have a good life, but he's still in that place, and I can't have him in my life, and that's okay.
Mhm.
And I don't
Yep.
I
And
don't
that
have
is it.
any resentment towards him.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's releasing that, that also too, that karmic bond,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Yeah, that cord, that, okay, we're never going to do this again. Like,
Yeah.
because you've now healed in a way that is permanent.
Yes.
So there's no need to go back there anymore,
Correct.
right? There's no need to redo or relive or
No.
re-experience that anymore.
No.
And so now you can truly move on in such a healthy way, because you don't have the bitterness and the resentment
Mhm.
and the blame going on anymore that will keep you attached.
You're right.
Knowingly or unknowingly will keep you attached to that person. So,
Right. And a lot of people get attached expecting that person to apologize or to own up
yeah.
to their stuff. He never has. He never is, it's never happened. And I don't expect it, and I don't need it. I don't
Yeah.
need it.
Yeah.
It is that it really is that complete cut and freedom. For me,
Yep.
it's freedom, because I don't have to deal with that anymore. It's not part of my life
Exactly.
anymore. And
Exactly.
but it was a process. It didn't happen overnight. It was a process.
Hmm.
Like I
Hmm.
said, I'm still working through forgiveness with my mom and my dad. And I think part of it is because over the last few years, I've just really put my whole timeline together, and understanding a lot of the missing pieces in my life, and understanding a lot more. And I also have discovered a lot of stuff about my mom and her history and why she behaved the way that she did, which gave me empathy for her, right? But it also makes
Hmm.
me think, why didn't you break the generational trauma? You
She
know?
didn't
So
know.
that's
She didn't know she could.
right, exactly, exactly. And
You know.
and and I'm doing
Hmm.
it,
Hmm.
and that's what matters. But it is a process, and
Yeah.
but I will tell you, it really frees you, and it doesn't, again, it doesn't diminish what they did. It doesn't make it okay. They have to answer about that. That's on them.
That's
But
on them.
yeah,
Yep.
that's on them.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
this has been really great. This has been awesome.
Yeah.
And why don't you tell our listeners how to reach out to you so they
Sure.
can book a session and get their healing going?
Yes, yes. If you're ready to, be an active participant in your healing journey, definitely please look me up. My website is risetherapyworks.com, and all my social media handles are at Rise Therapy Works. So it makes it very easy.
And we'll have all those links for everybody as well,
Yeah,
so they can click
yeah.
on them. And what would you like to leave our listeners with?
You know, you are meant to change and you are meant to heal. And you deserve to feel free and to be happy and to feel in peace.
Yes.
And all that you need to do is to be ready for change and to actively seek the right support who can help you navigate that change and that healing journey process, so that you can find it and achieve it in a way that is lifelong,
Mm,
you know.
life changing and lifelong.
Life changing and lifelong.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
okay if you're reaching out to her and you're scared. It's okay if you're
Mm-hmm.
shaking while you're pushing that button.
Doing it.
It's a
Yes,
scary thing, but and we all, it's scary for all of us, but it's worth it.
I agree. I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be doing this work had I not gone through my healing journey, you know, and really faced, you know, the pain of it all. I knew that it would be okay. I had support and I had help. And, you know, because what would be worse? Staying as I was, that would be horrible. I would much rather take the chance on feeling better
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
being better.
I'm not sure I would be here if I hadn't done my healing. Seriously.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's just
Yeah.
choices I made in my life that weren't real great.
Yep. I know. And there's, and believe, I mean, I've heard so much, and it's unbelievable how resilient human beings are.
True. Very true. Very
We
true.
all have a purpose. And so when you can heal, and you can use your healing journey as part of your purpose, that's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you use your journey, the abuse you endured, and the suffering you endured, and the healing that you endured, and you use it to help so many other people,
Mm-hmm.
so that they could step into their power just enough to go get the help they need.
Exactly.
Or to get that little nugget that all of a sudden flips the switch for them, and they go, oh my gosh, that's what I've been needing to hear.
Exactly. That's
Thank
exactly it. Beauty from ashes, right?
you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, I
Exactly.
couldn't do anything about my past, but I can certainly do something about my future. And
That's
that's
right.
exactly it. If I can help someone have that aha moment that helps them take that first step or that second step
Yep.
into their healing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we can help shorten people's suffering. Absolutely.
That's right. Yep.
Well, thank you so
That's good.
much. This has been
Thank
great.
you. Yes. Thank you
I
so
love your
much.
work, and I know it makes a difference.
Yes, I feel that it does. I know it does. I just see people, the way they come in when they start working with me, and throughout the process, and the end of, and just even within the first month, I'm seeing change and change.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, it's like they're a new person.
Yeah.
One of my
There's not
clients,
enough money that you could pay us for that feeling of
like
when you
they're
help someone
just,
like that.
yes. And one of my clients is becoming an RTT therapist as we speak. She's like, this
Nice.
is amazing. I've always wanted to be a therapist. I'm like, do it, girl. Go for it. Yeah.
That's
So it's just
awesome.
beautiful. It's beautiful to see it. It's beautiful to see people taking action on their dreams and not being,
Yeah.
you know, so scared, and they just do it and they achieve, you know. So
I know. When you see
yeah.
someone fulfill that which they were supposed to do,
Mm-hmm.
it is, there's no feeling. And I love watching people heal, whether I'm part of it or not. It will
Exactly.
bring me to tears if I see someone else,
Yes.
you know, helping someone. It's just, I love it, you know, because I
Yes.
know what that feels like to be in that ugly, dark place. And I know what it's like to have those aha moments and have that
Yes.
measure of healing where you just feel like the
Yes.
pressure is off
Mm-hmm.
and you can
It's
breathe
that
again.
release and relief, and it's just, it feels incredible. Now your mind is clear,
Yeah. Things
and
make
you can, okay,
sense.
yes,
And you can
yes,
control
absolutely.
this.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's just, it's beautiful. And I know there's so many modalities out there that are helpful. And so it's just about, and I don't believe that just one is, you know, the end all be all
Yeah.
for everybody, right?
No.
But it's just a matter of finding the one that's right for you and that works for
Correct.
you. The rest doesn't matter. It just
Right.
doesn't matter. It's just how you connect with that.
Right. This modality, though, I have to agree that because you're getting into the subconscious
Mm-hmm.
and you're getting into the body, which is, those are what you
Yes,
need in order to heal trauma. That is critical.
absolutely.
Talk therapy has its place, but you
Yeah.
really need to have get into your subconscious where all that bullshit is stored,
Yeah.
and your body where you physically feel it. I always felt it in my chest and in my throat. Yeah, that was
Yep.
my spots. Yeah.
Yep,
So
absolutely. And what I love about it, see, I know that there are people, there's personal development, you know, professionals and coaches, and who say you don't ever need to go back. You don't ever need to know your source of pain and go back there, right? And to deal with that, you can just move on, just release resistance, and then you can just move on
yeah.
by doing these recodes and all this stuff. I've tried it. I understand where they're getting. I understand. and I see its value.
Correct.
I truly, truly, and I've talked with my clients about this too, believe that it is important for us to look back and connect the past and how it's truly affecting our present.
Correct.
How it's so that we can change it, not so that we can keep reliving it over and over again. You know, the purpose is to break the cycle.
Right.
Then we can reprogram, because now you're doing it knowing exactly what to work on and what to change.
Right. I 100% agree. And I know coaches have their place, but when it comes to trauma, it's not just changing the mindset. And I'm concerned about that too, with the coaches out there that are working with people with trauma, and then it's not working because they're not handling it the way it needs to be managed.
Right.
And it ends up creating more trauma for the person.
Yeah. Because they'll feel good in the immediate,
in the moment.
They'll release the moment and they'll feel good and be like, okay, great. And then they'll keep ruminating. The cycle still continues. And then they get frustrated and defeated.
Yes.
And believing I'm never going to get out of this. I'm stuck this way. And you're not.
Yeah.
It's just that you haven't given your mind the right tools and gotten the right information from your mind in order to do the right healing. That's all.
Right. It's not going back and reliving.
You can't relive.
You don't want to go back and relive it, but you do need to go back. And like you said, you need to find out the root of it and the connections. Because I know, like in my triggers, when I get triggered, when I catch my triggers and I'm getting really good at it, I can immediately now go right back to where the root is, to what caused that trigger. And that trigger does not line up with really what's supposed to be going on that day, but it certainly makes sense when I put it back to the root of what is going on in my head. Right.
Absolutely.
But being able to catch those triggers and stopping it and stopping my momentum and helping understand, it's because of that memory. Got it. Okay.
Yes.
I'm able to, because what I do in my triggers, which I think everybody does, if I'm not managing it, I'll do some kind of self-sabotaging or self-defeating something or other to myself, right? And what and because that's all I see, because it's just this like road you go down, that's the only road you see, but if you take the self-awareness and you stop and you realize, I'm being triggered, and I'm being triggered because that memory is coming up. This situation brought that memory up and I'm reacting to that memory. I can see the other roads to go down. I can stop and go, okay, it's telling me to go down here, and I know what's going to happen if I do that, so I'm going to take this other road. It opens up the possibilities of you to make choices.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes, and it sounds like also what you're doing is you're shutting off your stress response.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like holding that stress response so that you can now become more logical.
Correct.
To go, okay, whoa, I feel it. Sometimes people will feel before they realize what they're thinking.
Yes.
That's really, really common. And you go, oh my God, I got this like tension, and I can see, and boom, like here I go. I'm about to get triggered, or I am triggered. I'm about to explode. Maybe it's yell or just do something really sabotaging that they shouldn't do. And when you catch the emotions early, you can more easily put a stop to it and say, okay, wait, calm down. Let me take some deep breaths. Let me get out of the room. Let me go walk for a second, go wash my hands in cold water. Cold water helps to really calm down that.
You. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Do something. What is going on? What is happening? Like you said, I see now, okay, so from the past, because this situation happened to me and I reacted this way, I'm getting ready to go back down that path again. But is this really true about me now? Is this what I really need? Or is this what's really good for me now?
Right.
No. Okay, what is good for me now? Do it this way. Got it. Thank you.
Yep, that's exactly what happened.
And that healing that you've been through has given you the capacity
Mm-hmm.
to be able to catch your triggers before they go out of control.
Yeah, because I used to get triggered a lot, and the damage I did in my triggers to myself and to others. I don't like that cleanup. That's not fun. And it's craziness. It's craziness that goes on in your head. It's
Mm-hmm.
not anything good when you're being triggered. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was just tell listeners, like you said, you do feel it in your body. If you're paying attention, you'll feel it in your body first. You'll
Yeah.
feel the reaction in your body. And I did. And then it goes to my head,
Mm-hmm.
and then the crazy
Mm-hmm. Those
irrational
and the
thoughts.
thoughts, yeah, the irrational thoughts, and they're so fast, and you're just
Yes.
you can't even like catch them. You're like, what the heck?
Exactly. They're like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's like,
Uh-huh.
because I'm going
Yeah.
right back to the one, and I've talked about it several times on my podcast that happened last year when I was in Idaho, and I literally walked through it from the very beginning to the very end, and it was weird. It was like I was an out of body experience watching this thing, and watching how I was acting, how I was reacting, and my husband, who I love more than anything, was so patient with me. And I told him I'm being triggered, and I'm just going to tell you the crazy stuff that's going on in my head, because I just and then I just looked at him. I said, clearly I'm being triggered, and the thing that I wanted to do was to do something to harm myself. And instead I said, you know what, we're going to do the very thing that you said, and we're going to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And that was really empowering, because that was the first time I think I really took it from the beginning to the end, and watched and learned and did it different, and showed my brain that I don't have to go back to those memories and relive that and act out like that again.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's incredible that wherewithal that you had, and thank goodness you had your husband there to help to walk with you during that process,
Yeah.
right? So boy, that support, just in having
Yeah.
that somebody to kind of be your anchor, but
Yeah.
allow you to still go through it
Yes.
because you needed to learn,
Yeah. He didn't try
yeah.
to correct it. He didn't try to,
Mhm.
guys are fix-its, all right? They don't like to see
Mhm.
the women suffering. He doesn't
No.
like to see me suffering. He was really good. He knew he just needed to let me
Yep.
say what I needed to
Yep.
say. And he just smiled. I just remember looking over, he's driving, he just smiled. And he was so sweet about it, and I call him my safe place, and he's my
Mhm.
normal. He's my safe place,
Yeah.
and he's my normal. So
Yeah.
I still get worried, though. Sometimes you see that crazy side of me come out, and then be like, I'm out.
He's not going anywhere. But
No.
you are your normal too.
Yeah, I'm getting
You
there.
you you can provide that for yourself too.
Hmm.
That's normal. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's nice. It's really nice.
Yeah.
It's
It
nice being
is.
on the other side of it.
Right? It doesn't it feel good to feel proud of yourself
I
when
know.
you're just like, I'm so proud of myself that I just overcame that situation,
And
and
I didn't create complete chaos for everyone.
yes, it's
It
like,
was,
yep,
yeah, I did. I actually did give myself a pat on the back when it comes to that. And
yeah.
there's been a few triggers like that where I watched myself go through it and made right decisions, but it was nice that I could stop, because that's what I couldn't do for so
Mhm.
long, is I couldn't stop that. And now I can.
Mhm.
So
Yes,
this has
yes.
been wonderful. Thank you so much for coming
Awesome.
on
Thank
and
you.
sharing and giving hope to our listeners. Because you certainly shared a lot of stuff outside of your therapy, but you shared a lot of stuff that is giving a lot of listeners hope.
Absolutely. You're not alone. So
You don't
many
need
of
to be
us have been
alone.
through it. Yeah. Yeah. Don't keep isolating yourself if that's one of the things that you're doing. Because there are people who are ready and available and willing to
Hmm.
support you and to guide you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again. I
Thank you,
really appreciate
Lisa.
it.